and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Christina Shloya. I am a real estate investor and agent out of Phoenix, Arizona. This is my first year in real estate, my first year in business, my first year as an entrepreneur. And so on this channel, I am making it my mission this year to cover all of the things that come with that, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Let's get into it. So there's no script this week. If you could tell from my last couple videos, I was kind of like side-eyeing my double screen, and that is because I scripted my last few videos. Little update on my comfortability with getting on camera. I am getting a lot better at it, and I think that I'm able to structure already YouTube videos kind of in my head. I do write things down, obviously, because my first mistake would be not doing that. But I am going to try to script less, or at least script word for word less. And I think it's really easy to do that this week because what we're going to talk about this week is so top of mind for me. And it's because it's something that I was kind of dealing with most recently, and kind of an internal battle and conversation that I had to have with myself. So if I can get in front of somebody who is at the beginning of having that conversation with themselves and get them to start thinking about it in a way that took me months to start to think about, that's a win for me. So right now, today, I am talking to the person that is where I was 6 months ago. For those of you who don't know me at all, or maybe you do know me a little bit, I don't really talk super openly about my career online, or I didn't start to until this year. I talk about networking and professionalism and things related to career, but I never talked about what I actually do. So for the last few years, I've been working at colleges and with international students. So mostly international student advising around anything that international students could need in an academic setting. So the offices that I was in was basically just a direct support to international populations on campus. And I did that at a couple different big schools back in Boston. If you don't know anything about Boston, one thing that you might know is that it's kind of like the education hub of the country, or one of the education hubs of the country. And so there's a lot happening when it comes to education or higher ed in general in Massachusetts. Working in Boston and being in the field that I was in, I thought, it was a really good place for me to be. Only a couple years into the field, I started to really get a feel for all of the external things that play a role in student support and direct student support. And I am such a component for supporting students on every level. I'm a very holistic person, and I've just always been pretty passionate about supporting students in academic settings with non-academic things. And so seeing all of these other barriers and BS get in the way of the student experience, of the advisor and professor experience, or anybody that was in a direct role with students, really started to kind of get at me. And I think that I started to notice the role that politics play in academia as a whole. And I think the only reason I didn't really realize that when I was in college myself was because I was so distracted by all the things that I was doing in college. But once I actually slowed down, started working in that setting as a professional, I started to really become hyper aware of the ins and outs of what actually kind of goes on. And being at one of the larger, more famous schools, I might add, this was probably exacerbated more than it is across the board as a whole. But I started to get so sour on my job. This was months before I started to consider any type of career change. I learned about real estate. I learned about how many different ways there are to make money in real estate. And I learned just about like the vast opportunity that there is in real estate. And I was elated. I was so excited because nobody had ever told me any of this before. Like, I had never been told about real estate as a possible career path in any school setting that I was in, right? So it didn't really register with me. It was never something that I considered. And I I have heard other people that are getting started in real estate have a similar experience to this, where you learn about real estate and you're so excited and you're like, fuck everything else. I'm quitting my job tomorrow. Like, these people have no idea, you know? I put a timeline on when I was going to quit my job really before anything else. And I am the type of person who loves to add as much pressure as possible on myself. I like to put as much pressure as possible in the worst way. Story short, I kept my previous job for a pretty long time after I had already made some decisions. Those decisions being moving to Phoenix, wanting to get my real estate license, wanting to start a career in real estate, and really starting to kind of make that transition in my head. I still, though, wanted to move to Phoenix in a certain amount of time, and the timeline that I had given myself was only a couple months. So I started to think of solutions. What I ended up doing was talking to my job and saying, hey, I know you don't have anyone to train a replacement for me, so how about I tell you 2.5 months early that I'm moving in 2.5 months. You can go and find somebody right now to replace me, and then once you hire them, I'll train them. And they went for that. They took me up on that, and I ended up staying employed with my last job for like about 6 months when I moved to Phoenix. And through that time, I started to slowly get into real estate, started to learn about business structure, started to learn about lead generation, got my real estate license, right, doing all of these moving parts to start to build my business. And I think in my head, I was very much thinking, okay, when this job ends, I'm going to jump straight into entrepreneurship. And I'm going to jump straight into this. And I'm not only going to match the salary that I have with my master's degree. I am going to exceed that with little to no business experience. So, in this whole time, I am also saying I am never working for anybody else ever again. I don't care who they are, okay? I'm never working for anybody. I really wasn't even lasting on, like, investor teams. Like, investors were hiring me to work on their teams, and I was lasting, like, 10 days, okay? I was so in this mindset of, I'm not working for anybody. Nobody is going to tell me what to do. La, 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 la. Was to my end date at my job because I wanted to keep control in that situation so bad that I did not let them tell me when they didn't need me anymore. I told them what my end date was going to be. And so I did that. And as that approached, I really started to think, do I hate education so much that all of the work that I've done in education over the last decade, working with all different levels, ages, environments, curriculums, does all of this not matter all of a sudden because I had a bad experience with this employer? And because I was already around so many people that were kind of on a similar path, you know, a lot of people in my investor community and a lot of the online communities that I'm a part of have a similar goal of everybody wants to leave their 9 to 5 and everybody wants to do it like tomorrow, right? And so being around that didn't really help me kind of falling into this loop of I don't want to work for anybody ever again. I'm never working for anybody. Da 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 da. Okay. And then one day the pressure got so bad, like I started to think, why do I feel so heavy right now? Why do I feel like I'm on a time crunch, like I'm on a timeline? And I had to answer that question because it was like the difference between me stopping and not. Really, it was. Um, and so I came to the conclusion that it wasn't that I didn't want to work for anybody ever again. Um, it wasn't that I thought that I was completely unemployable, like I was saying. It was really that I hated that job. And I really disagreed with the values of that institution. Um, and it was one place, right? Had I had other similar experiences at other places before that? Sure. So did I start to develop opinions about entire systems and structures? Sure, right? But it wasn't really my field so much as it was finding the right position for me. So here's where I'm at now, and I want to give some perspective so that you all know that I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I'm not in real estate full time. I'm not a full-time entrepreneur today, but I will be, okay? I'm going to work a lot harder if I know that my bills at least are taken care of. Or I know that every deal that I close in the beginning isn't going to make or break my bank account, right? I don't want to work like deal to deal as if I'm working paycheck to paycheck, right? Deal checks are a lot bigger than paycheck checks, but it's not really that simple. Let's just say that. I got another job with a large study abroad provider, and my day job is helping college students through the study abroad pre-departure process, which, if you know me, it is something that I can do with my eyes closed. It's something that I've done for myself a good jillion times. When I was in college and I was doing all of this paperwork and all of these things for my pre-departure stuff, my visa work, all of that, I didn't even want help from anybody. I wanted to do it all myself. And honestly, without my experiences abroad, I don't think I would have made it through college. I don't think that I would have stayed at the same school that I was at for a full 4 years and convinced myself that it was a good use of my time, had I not been doing all of the traveling that I was doing. So I am very passionate about education abroad, about people looking into their options to spend time abroad while they're in college. A lot of the times people think that it's way more expensive than being on campus, and it is the same price, if not cheaper in a lot of cases, to study abroad. So, and just like when I think about the memories, I remember when I was in college, so many of my friends were so shook that I wasn't going to graduation, and I couldn't believe that they cared that I wasn't going to graduation when I was in Portugal. Like I was not even a little bit worried about who I was sitting next to at graduation or sitting through that ceremony. As long as they gave me the piece of paper that said that I freaking passed the 4 years, then I was good. I'll celebrate in Portugal. That's very much how I am. And so the more people that I can help to be like that too, the better. So that is what I am doing as my full-time career right now. I work in the office 3 days a week. I have 2 days a week where I am remote. On those days, I work from my real estate office and I multitask. I do real estate and meet with students, Zoom with students, do all of those things at the same time. And that is very much how my schedule has evolved. And on the weekends, obviously, the weekends are huge for real estate. So I am doing a lot, but I am doing all of the things that I want to do. I think that in the beginning, I was putting too much pressure on myself to learn strategies that I didn't really want to learn for the sake of making money fast and quickly. and maybe not strategies, but methods on the sales and marketing side. And having kind of spun my wheels for a little bit, going through the motions, having talked to a whole bunch of people that, you know, are active in the business, I know that everybody has an opinion. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody's opinion is going to be the correct one, the best one, the one you should listen to. And I am so in a place right now of taking things that register with me, that I connect with, and just leaving out the things that don't, not holding anybody to anything that they really say, and taking full accountability for everything in my life, the way that I structure my days, you know, the way that I structure this transition. Like, I just feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders since I started to be really honest with myself about the aspects, one, of real estate that I actually like and that I'm good at, and two, the fact that I'm going to be a real estate investor and agent for the rest of my life. And if I don't become a full-time real estate investor and agent until 2 or 3 years into my journey, instead of 7 or 8 months into literally like upheavaling my whole entire life, I'll be just fine. Like, and that was a conclusion that no matter how many people, nobody told me that, because I never told anybody how I was feeling, right? So that was a mistake too. I don't talk to anybody about anything. So all of these conclusions that I came to in my head could have came out a lot faster had I just told people how I was feeling. But that's just not how I operate normally. I'm working on it. You should too. Is, like I said, if I can catch anybody who's kind of where I was at the beginning of this, and get you to start thinking this way before you go and make the decision that you must jump in full-time to your business on X date, or you must do this, or you must do that, or you can't date real estate because you have to be married to real estate, or you're going to get swallowed up. Don't listen to any of it. Do what is best for you. And that is always going to be my message. That is always what I'm going to leave you with. But I don't think that it's hard to like see it on me right now, that this is all coming from the heart. I didn't write down a single word for this video. This is very fresh in my head, and this is something that I went through very recently, and that I feel like a win, because I feel like it's a win that I'm on the other side of it, and that I made the best decision for myself. To say to anybody who, I know there's a lot of people, there's people even in my real estate communities that kind of silently go away for a little bit, end up having to get a job to cover bills while they're starting up their real estate business, and feel like a failure for that reason. And I want you to know that nobody cares. You have to do what you have to do. Nobody is offering to pay your bills. Nobody is even asking you how you are with any of that. So you have to do what you have to do. I'm afraid to go slow. I know that not every business is fast-paced like this. Real estate is an interesting business because it's slow-paced and fast-paced at the same time. The sales cycle is like 90 days. So we get data slow in real estate. However, once things get going in real estate, they take off pretty quickly. And once you're actually like in the transactional phase of real estate, everything is on a timeline and it's pretty fast paced. Add competition in certain markets on top of that, and yeah, there's a lot going on, right? Not every business is like this, not every industry is like this. But in real estate specifically, there's definitely pressure to go fast. And I would say that there's a comparison element when you see people around you going fast too, right? But it's okay. Go at your own pace. Know that your learning curve is different than other people's. Know that there is going to be skills that you don't have, that you're lacking in, that you're going to either need to learn, or you're going to need to find somebody to work with that knows them. But all of these things are going to take time. to flesh out, and you're going to need to make every step of the way the best decision for you. And that's not going to happen overnight. You might not know what the best decision for you is right away. You might have to get it wrong a few times before you get it right. Trust me, it didn't happen overnight. There were a couple jobs that I worked for a couple days, a couple weeks. To quit a few times. I had to feel like a quitter a few times. And I had to not stop until I found the best way to do things for me. And so I want everyone to do that. I want everyone to know that it's not going to happen overnight and that you need to work really hard at it, probably the hardest you've ever worked. And, but I want you to know that if you do, it will really pay off. So that is all for this week. As you can probably tell, I'm not great at ending these videos. I don't really have like an ending spiel script down yet, and I don't really like sounding inauthentic. So when I think of something that sounds good in my own voice, I'll start it. Until then, I'm just going to end them awkwardly. Okay? All right. See y'all next week.